Hey guys, Cowboy Brett coming to you from the Alfalfa Bale Studio today with another Marriage and Men Mondays message for you. And today we're going to go back to the 7 habits of highly effective people and kind of talk to you about a blended household. Okay? If any of you have been through a previous marriage, you've got children through that marriage, your spouse, your wife now has children through a previous marriage, maybe you guys have kids together, maybe you don't. I want to talk to you about how to kind of manage a blended household. Um, and I'm going to kind of do it through the eyes of someone walking into a relationship like that. How do you go about fostering a good quality blended relationship, a blended family? And back to the 7 habits part, you kind of got to begin with the end in mind. Okay, that's one of the 7 habits. You got to begin with the end in mind. What do you want your lives to look like? Okay, so my brother, my sister, and I are all very, very close. Now, we did not come from a blended family, but we are very tight. That came from us growing up in the same room together, all three of us, and that'll be in another video, I'm sure. Um, but my wife saw when we were dating the relationship that I had with my brother and my sister, and even with my parents. Okay, very, very close, very tight. A lot of people are jealous of how, I don't say jealous, they're envious of how tight our family is. And we like that. Not that they're envious, but that we have a close family. So that was what my wife wanted to have for her boys. So when she and I started dating and everything, when we decided that we were going to get married and everything, we wanted to make sure that we were kind of fostering that. And we sat down and had a relatively direct conversation about how we were going to raise the kids, what our values were, and we knew all that before we decided to actually get married. But we wanted to talk about how we were going to raise the kids, what kind of discipline we were going to have, how we were going to avoid well, mom told me that I could, dad told me that I couldn't, that kind of thing, how we were going to handle and fight through the struggle of when they go to the other parent's house, and then they come back to yours, what changes they've had in their behavior. So the best thing I can offer you there is to sit down and talk with your spouse, or soon to be spouse, about what you want to be able to get out of that and how you're going to be able to manage it. Who's going to handle the disciplinary actions, what disciplinary actions you're going to take, what rewards you're going to provide. Some things as simple as how many extracurricular activities are the kids going to be involved in. You don't want to get them involved in too much because then you can't chase them all down. You just spend all your life running around to soccer practice, baseball practice, football practice, everything else going on, speech club, dance class, who knows what else. So how are you going to handle that? Are you going to limit each kid to one? Which kids get to do what? How are you going to go about doing that? So sit down and talk and get a game plan together on what you want your kids' lifestyles to look like and how you're going to manage that in a blended situation. Now, that being said, you've also kind of got to talk to your former spouse when you're dealing with a blended relationship like that. They've got to kind of know what game plan you're on. And you guys kind of need to be on the same page, even though you're not together anymore. You and your ex-wife, your wife's ex-husband, whatever the case may be. You've kind of got to go through and make sure that you guys are all on the same page, because if you don't, you're going to struggle. Lynn and I did a little bit. We had areas where it was very fluid between us and our previous spouses and how we were raising our kids, and then we had other areas where we really struggled. You know, how early are they going to get cell phones? At what age are they going to get cell phones? Because if one child gets a cell phone from my household, and my wife's kids get a cell phone or get held off from getting a cell phone because of their other parent to a later age, now you got a challenge you got to deal with. Same thing with video games and something else we ran into, and how much or how little you want them to see on TV. So you just got to kind of sit down and put a game plan together on how are we going to be able to raise our kids, and you've kind of got to include your former spouses, the other parent of those children, to be able to make sure that you're all kind of on the same page. Sometimes you can't do that. I understand that. Sometimes that's not available to you, and sometimes you don't want to do that. But for the benefit of the kids, you kind of need to, in my opinion. I'm not a marriage counselor or a child psychologist or anything like that. It's just me telling you my personal experience. But I do know that that's something that will help, as if you guys can sit down and put a game plan together on how you're going to raise your kids and how you're going to foster that. And the reason I say that it's so beneficial to be able to do that, now that my kids are grown and older, and they're all adults. The youngest is 17. The oldest that we got to raise is 24. Those 4 boys are appreciative now because when we got together, I was a good disciplinarian, but I wasn't very strict, if that makes any sense. My wife was pretty strict, but she wasn't a very good disciplinarian. Actually, she was a pretty good disciplinarian too, to be honest with you, and Lynn was. But we were hard on our boys, and it's tough for them to not look at it and go, well, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, and pull those stunts. You know what I mean? So now that they're older, though, they're appreciative of the fact that Lynn wouldn't prepare an extra meal because they didn't like something she was making. Lynn likes to cook. My ex-wife didn't. She didn't cook hardly at all. And so my boys, when they came to our house, they kind of tended to be picky eaters. And Lynn would just tell them, look, I'm making one meal. I'm not making you something else, and I'm not making you something else, and I'm not making something else for the rest of the family. We're going to have one meal. And you're going to try everything. And so they didn't like that then. But now that they're adults, they realize the benefit and the purpose behind it. And both of my boys have thanked Lynn for that, and both of her boys have thanked me for being hard on them about other stuff too. Teaching them discipline, teaching them various things, you know? And so you're going to go through some struggles with that in a blended household. Just be ready for it. You can minimize that by communicating with how you're going to raise them and how you're going to get things done going forward, but you're still just going to have that as a dynamic of kids being kids, being teenagers, you know, that kind of thing. But if you do things right when they become adults, they will understand why you did that and the purpose behind it, and they will appreciate it. So it's going to take some time. You're gonna go through that, and it's going to be frustrating. I'm not going to kid you, but you can get through it, and you will get through it. You just got to be able to set your guidelines and stick to it, and make sure that you're not getting played by the kids, because they will do that too. Okay. Hope that helps out a little bit. If it does, please be sure and hit the like button, the subscribe button, share it with your friends. We appreciate you guys being here on the channel and hanging with us every week. And I hope it works out for you. And blended families are always tricky. They can always be a challenge. But if you do it right and you get lucky, you gotta have a little luck on your side. It's a beautiful thing. All 4 of our boys now, 3 of them right now that are 20 and older, are living in 2 houses next door to one another in Norman right now. And the youngest is dying to get out of school so he can go join them and live in a 3rd house. They're right there next to him, all 3 of them right there together. So it's kind of funny to see how tight and how close they are and how we've been able to successfully foster that. I'm still scratching my head as to how we pulled it off, but it's beautiful to watch now. And I'm very, very thankful and very, very blessed and very appreciative of how close our boys are. So I hope you have that same thing for your kids as they grow up and as they develop their relationships with one another and fight through the struggles of a blended household. Sometimes it can be a struggle. Sometimes it can be really easy, and it just depends on the kids, depends on you, and depends on your ex-wife, ex-husband, whatever the case may be. And but I wish you guys the best, and I hope it turns out well for you. Again, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and share this video. We sure appreciate you guys. Y'all take care of yourselves. This is Brett Carlson coming to you, Cowboy Brett coming to you from the Alfalfa Bale studio. Thanks, guys.